Filmz TV præsenteres i samarbejde med Solid.
What are they bloody doing?
That's why I always be around.
You're a bunch of flaming nuisances. Bugger off!
Velkommen til Filmz TV. I denne uge er der biografpremiere på det engelske feelgood-komediedrama En sang for Marion. Det er historien om en kræftsyg ældre kvinde, og så også hendes bitre gamle mand, Arthur. En mand, som selvfølgelig mener, at det er fuldstændig åndssvagt, at hans kone går til sangkor. Uden at afsløre for meget, sker der dog ting og sager undervejs, som får den sure, indelukkede Arthur til at åbne lidt op for både musikken, følelserne og menneskerne i nabolaget. En sang for Marion er en lidt forudsigelig, men også enormt velspillet og forbavsende nøgtern og rørende film. Og i hovedrollen som den knottende Arthur finder man en af det engelske filmlandskabs helt store legender, Terence Stamp. En fantastisk skuespiller, som ikke blot har medvirket i nyere Hollywood-produktioner som Wanted og Star Wars episode 1, den usynlige fjende, men som også var en af filmmediets helt store stjerner tilbage i 1960'erne, hvor han blandt andet blev Oscar-nomineret for sin gennembrudspræstation i Billy.
This is Terence Stamp, the young actor hailed by famed columnist Llewellyn Parsons as the screen's outstanding new star discovery.
Og hvor han også imponerede i John Schlesingers Far From the Madding Crowd, hvor han spillede over for sin daværende kendiskæreste, Julie Christie.
Terence Stamp as the quicksilver soldier of fortune, Sergeant Troy. Even with a woman, he knows but one way. Conquest.
Stamp har blandt andet også spillet en drag queen i Ørkendronningen Priscilla og en hævngærig farmand i Steven Soderberghs bl.a. Englænderen. Men Stamp er nok bedst kendt for sin præstation i Superman 2, hvor han spillede den ondskabsfulde General Zod. Stamp har altså mildest talt spillet et væld af kulørte roller i årtiernes løb. Og Arthur er faktisk en af de lidt mere, normale mænd, som Stamp har spillet. Og netop det var en af de ting, der skræmte Stamp allermest ved at påtage sig rollen. Det talte vi med ham om, da vi forleden havde skuespilleren i røret.
My main concerns when I was offered the script, I mean, I knew it was a wonderful script, but I felt that because it was such a profound love between them, that, you know, what I think of as a sort of twin soul relationship, really, and normally that twin soul relationship is depicted like in a very grand way. And so I felt that the story would be better served if the character that I was playing, you know, was portrayed by somebody who did ordinary better than me. I mean, I can do ordinary, but I don't do ordinary very well, you know, because I have such an amazing rapport with the camera usually, you know. So that was my concern, but the director sort of talked me out of that. And then I felt, well, you know, really, I'm just looking at my own mum and dad, because they were completely in love. They never ever wanted anybody else, and my father was, you know, unusually good looking. So I thought, if I get in trouble, I'll think about my own dad, which is what I did. What I really hate is when actors are portraying like a character who's unsympathetic and he's kind of cantankerous, and they always give the audience, or they, you know, it's possible to give the audience little clues, like, well, I'm not really this nasty, you know. And I really, really don't like that when I see an actor doing that. And the fact was, so I was determined to kind of keep, you know, he was emotionally closed down, as my own father was. And a lot of men of that generation, you know, it was a really hard time. So I felt that I would play him like truthfully, and I would really just let the audience just suppose, well, there must be something nice about him, because she's devoted to him. The filming went so well with, you know, Vanessa and Gemma and Chris. It was a wonderful level of performance, you know, because you can never really dictate when the real emotions are going to be there. So when they are, it's a kind of luxury. So by the time we got to the last day, which was when I was due to sing the song, it was just, it was already evening, you know. It was like one take was all we had time for, so I just got up and did it, frankly. It was a live take, you know. I mean, that we only had that one take, so that was what we used.
Yeah, I felt that it didn't sound like a studio recording. That was very nice, made it much more authentic as well.
Yes, exactly,
yeah.
Exactly.
The scenes with you and Chris Eccleston were very powerful as well.
Well, that was what made it easy for me was having the insight to play him as my own dad, because in a sense I was the son and the father, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, what I portrayed toward him was exactly the kind of relationship I had with my dad. I mean, he didn't not love me, but he never showed anything because he was emotionally closed down by the war, you know, frankly.
Yeah. He was a soldier in the war?
He was a sailor. He was a merchant seaman.
Okay, yeah.
And he was shipwrecked 3 times, so he was kind of very close to death frequently, you know. So by the time the war ended, when he came back, and was when I got to know him, there was the element of grace had been kind of buried within him, you know. He had no grace really in his life left.
So you're talking about using the insight you had into your own family, using that for the part and tapping into that, but does a movie like this also make you reflect about how you live your own life? I mean, because you seem so perfect for this part, but also you yourself, you're a bachelor, you don't have any children, and does a movie like this make you think about that, also set that in perspective?
Yes, I often thought about that, and the fact was that, and I have lots of godchildren. I mean, my brother's daughter has 3 girls, 2 of them are like identical twins, and they're really small, and they're really adorable, and I often think how wonderful it must be for a man, you know, to have daughters, to kind of grow up, you know, with daughters. But the truth was that my children were saved me. I probably wouldn't have been a very good father, you know.
I disagree. I mean, you'd take them to football matches, and they'd be on great cool movie sets. And I mean, if I had General Zod as a dad, I think that would be the most awesome thing in the universe. Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, there's rarely a day goes by. There's just the last few years when I'm not sort of, I see somebody looking at me very strangely, and I say, "Kneel before Zod, you bastard!" and the truth is that I have a kind of generation of sons whose first film was Superman 2. You know.
Yeah. And also, there's obviously a new Superman film coming out this summer with Michael Shannon, who is just one of my favorite actors at the moment, playing your iconic role. Do you have any interest in seeing what his take on the character will be?
Well, I guess it will be hard for me not to see it. But I was in Paris yesterday, and I heard one of the journalists I was talking to told me a funny story, and he said that Michael Shannon, he'd come home from work, and his girlfriend or his wife, I'm not sure which it was watching a video, and she said, "Oh my God, you've got to see this guy, Terence Stamp, playing General Zod." And Shannon said, No, I don't want to see Terence Stamp playing Zod. Now, I don't know if that's true, but if it is, I really understand where he's coming from, you know.
Yeah, not have another performance perhaps influencing his take on the character.
Yes, exactly.
Coming back to the line that we just briefly touched upon before, I just read a recent interview in Empire where you described Soderbergh as being in the same league as Weiler and Fellini, and I agree. I think he's one of the best filmmakers that we have at the moment, and I'm so crushed at the fact that he's saying he's retiring as a filmmaker after his next film, but.
Well, you couldn't be more crushed than me, because we were going to do like a kind of loose sequel to The Limey.
Wow! Can you tell me a bit about that? What had been your thoughts? What had you been talking about?
Well, he came and woke me up one night. I was in a hotel in Los Angeles. It's called the Chateau Marmont. He came to the Chateau Marmont with his wife, and he rang up to my room, and I went down with my wife. I was married at the time. And he kind of said to me, "What do you think about doing a sequel to The Limey? You know, you and Julie Christie?" And I said, "I think it's one of the best ideas I've ever heard, you know." And we couldn't get it written, and we couldn't get it written really because the limey was like complete unto itself. So I said to him, "Would you like me to scribble something?" And he said yes. So I wrote not really a sequel, but imagining it was the limey, but like a completely different setup.
Okay.
And he loved the screen. Well, he told me he loved the screenplay, but he, you know, during the time that I was writing it, he announced that he was retiring.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was, I was crushed at the time because, you know, the fact is, if there's anybody that I would like to work with again, it would be him, because it's such a rich experience to make a movie with him.
But I also think that he has to come back because, I mean, celluloid is in his veins. I mean, I don't think he will be able to resist the temptation to return at some point when it's yeah. But of course, it's also...
I can't wait to run into him. I'm going to say, "Oh, how's the painting going, Stephen?"
Yeah, watching the grass grow on the field. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
But the reason I personally felt so wonderful with him was that he actually held the camera himself.
Yeah.
So the and my girl has always been the camera. I mean, the camera's been my girl for like since I did Billy Budd. You know, it was just apparent to me. And so what this did for me was that the camera and the director were not two; they were one. And what was really wonderful about the limey was, for the most part, it's just take one. The whole film. Yeah. So I had an incredible rapport with him because that's my thing. I love the zen of film acting. You know, I love to just be up there on the edge and encourage the spontaneity and just nail it on one. And he was not just okay with it. He thought it was wonderful. I mean, I believe he told other actors, Terence Stamp has spoiled me for other actors, you know, because we were going at the same speed, you know, which happened to be 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. But a filmmaker that hasn't left as strong as an impression with you, based on what I've read, it's George Lucas, who obviously isn't also sort of a one-take guy. And I was so sad that your part wasn't much bigger in the final film as well, because you're...
Well, the thing is, he's not. You know, look, I've got nothing personal against George Lucas. It's just I don't regard him as a film director. I mean, he's like a visionary. He has his own vision.
Yeah.
But it's not really about acting or, you know, conveying emotions on the screen. It's about like effects and toys and other things, you know. So he's not my kind of guy. I mean, as well as I got on with Soderbergh, I didn't not get on with Lucas. It's just I had absolutely nothing in common with him, you know. Well, I had arrived in Australia the day before, and I got a call to come back to play the president of the universe for George Lucas. So I was on the other side of the world, and I flew back. And I was hoping to, you know, I really was doing it to have a couple of days with Natalie Portman, because although she was a little girl, I sensed that she was a natural, you know, I just thought she's the real thing, you know, she's like sort of female James Dean, you know.
Yeah.
And when I got on the set, he'd given her the day off, and I said, "Where's Natalie?" And he pointed to a bit of paper that was stuck on a post, you know. He said, "Oh, that's Natalie." And I said, "Tell me about my character." And he sort of paused, and he said, "Oh, he's beleaguered." I thought, "Oh, thanks, George. I've come from the other side of the world to get direction of being beleaguered." You know? I'm beleaguered by the jet lag, you know.
Yeah. It was perfect. You're a method actor. You made sure that you were on the other side of the world before you got the part.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Husk, at du kan finde alle vores tidligere Filmz TV-udsendelser på Filmz under Filmz TV-fanebladet, og også på video.dk, i iTunes og via vores gratis video-app.